I need you. This team needs you, all right?
He was a dedicated coach and mentor.
He was passionate about coaching students in high school.
His players loved him.
Dion, you know these plays.
He was a father figure to them.
But off the field, he was a player too.
He was dating multiple women.
I've always known him to be friendly with the ladies.
He's just having fun and loving life.
Until it came to a shocking end.
There's a foul odor coming out of the house.
He's been shot multiple times.
These kinds of crimes are passion-filled. There was no denying it was rage.
He better watch his back.
And there is no shortage of suspects.
It was such an unveiling of secrets that came out.
Houston, Texas, it's the beginning of something bigger. Football season.
Everything's bigger in Texas, but high school. Football, especially in Houston, is large. It's a large part of our community. Friday nights, when the lights go up, it brings out a culture that doesn't exist in other places.
Friday nights are something that people live for down here. It's a ritual. They just get together and watch the game together, and win or lose, there's a camaraderie about it that brings people together.
And when someone misses a game, people notice.
All right, go right there. Hold on. What's up, Sid?
Hey, what's up? Sorry I'm late, man. Y'all Kev here yet?
Man, I ain't seen him.
So that Friday night, when Clear Lake Academy takes the field in their season opener, and Coach Kevin Roman is nowhere to be found, his friend Cedric is starting to worry.
Hit him up, see what's up.
Kevin was a beloved coach at Houston's Clear Lake Christian Academy. Hey, yo, Kev, man, where you at?
He knew that his friend had gone out of town recently, but he had planned to be back.
We at the game.
He had like this weird feeling in his gut that something was wrong.
Kevin really loved Clear Lake Christian Academy. He was fully committed to everything that he was a part of there.
The students that he was coaching truly felt like they were a part of his family.
They're shocked. They just cannot believe that he's not right there front and center for them.
Hit me up, bro.
Cedric tries to reach Kevin multiple times, but never gets a response.
That's very odd. Usually they would have talked by now.
By the following day, there is still no word from Kevin.
So on Saturday night, he drove over to Kevin's house over in Sunnyside on the southeast end of Houston.
He goes to that house hoping that it's all just big misunderstanding.
That appears to be the case when he arrives at Kevin's house.
There's no car in the driveway.
Maybe something had come up and Kevin was still out of town.
Still, he decides to knock on Kevin's door just to be sure.
He notices that something's wrong. The wooden front door is open, but the burglar bar looks closed. Something just doesn't feel right.
Hey, Kev, open up the door, man.
The burglar bar was locked.
He hears a TV going.
Oh.
That's when it hit him. He started to smell a foul smell that begins to turn his stomach.
I can only imagine the sinking feeling in his gut.
He knows something is extremely wrong.
Kevin Roman was one of the most popular football coaches in the Houston area.
His players loved him. His colleagues thought highly of him.
He's loved by his family. He's loved by his friends. He is a likable guy.
He took a lot of pride in his work. He took a lot of pride in his position in these boys' lives.
A Grambling State alum from Louisiana, Kevin had moved to Houston for a coaching job at Clear Lake Christian Academy.
We're gonna win. Right.
Kevin Roman is a guy with a strong foundation, a strong Christian foundation.
Yeah.
Kevin was the son of a preacher.
Godly principles was something he had been taught since he was just a baby and growing up. And so he, in turn, tried to give that back to those around him.
Let's bow our heads. Go into prayer.
students he taught, the football players he coached, his friends.
In other words, Clear Lake Christian appeared to be a perfect fit.
Kevin was passionate about the Clear Lake community.
Clear Lake Christian embraced its youthful new coach, too.
In the communities that surround Houston, the coaches and the families all are unified as one big family. Oftentimes you find that the families look up to the coaches. They are bigger than life, almost like heroes.
A lot of people are looking at you and depend on you, but it is a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Your position is very, very public.
With football in this community specifically, football coaches can easily become the local celebrities.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Miss Anderson.
How you doing?
Parents loved him. It was clear that they loved him.
It's nice to see you.
All right, it's nice to see you too.
And Kevin was just as popular off the field.
Kevin is a single guy. He's very involved on the dating scene. He enjoys dating multiple women, being involved in multiple relationships.
He has a lot of charisma. You know, he's a people person. He's a ladies' man.
Who's that, man? His girl from the other night. Oh, okay. I actually got her number when she was walking down the street.
He's just having fun and enjoying himself and loving life.
But now, this beloved coach is missing, and his friend Cedric fears the worst.
Houston Fire and Medical, what is your emergency there?
I have a friend that I haven't heard from for a week. I came by. It looks like the door is propped open, and there's a foul odor coming out of the house.
Within minutes of the 911 call, Houston police arrive at Kevin's rental home.
When a call comes in to law enforcement from someone saying, something's not right, and I smell a foul odor coming from my friend's home, that's a priority.
They make forced entry.
Inside, they find the house in disarray.
There was packaged food lying around. There was empty bottles and trash just strewn about.
However, despite the mess, it appears that the odor is coming from deeper in the house.
First responders traced it back to the master bedroom.
Sadly, they make the discovery.
They do find a body.
You had several great catches last game.
Coaching was Kevin Roman's life and passion.
It's not just the love of the sport, it's the love of the people in the sport.
He really enjoyed being a part of the children's lives.
But now, after a worried 911 call, Houston police have discovered a decomposing body in Kevin's master bedroom.
The body was too decomposed for a positive identification. But since it appeared to be a black male, police believe that it was Kevin.
And it's obvious he didn't die of natural causes.
He's been shot multiple times.
There are bullet wounds around his neck. There's bullet wounds in his chest.
Officers also find 11 .45 caliber shell casings lying on the bedroom floor.
To be shot 11 times, right there indicates a passion killing.
When detectives arrive to begin their investigation, other evidence around the room also suggests this was a crime of passion.
There is a bag with women's clothing there.
They found several wine glasses.
There are also several neckties tied to the bed frame.
It seemed as if someone was tied up.
Are the detectives dealing with some sort of domestic drama?
It could have been someone that he was dating.
There was no forced entry. So that's an indicative of that he knew his killer.
Based on the evidence, detectives definitively rule out a robbery gone wrong.
They realize that very valuable electronics are still hanging on the wall. His wallet is still in plain view with almost $100 worth of cash.
The only things missing are Kevin's phone and his vehicle.
Did the person who did this steal the car?
That is a physical piece of evidence that we need to locate.
After issuing a be on the lookout for Kevin's missing Jeep, detectives ask his friend Cedric to come down to the station for a formal statement.
They want to know socially who he had relationships with.
Appreciate you coming down.
Cedric begins by explaining that he's known Kevin for a long time.
1997, we met playing high school football against one another.
He's one of those friends that you're going to touch base with every weekend.
Which was one of the main reasons Cedric has gone over to Kevin's house to check on him.
I imagine in a million years he never thought what he was about to walk in on.
Hoping to get to the bottom of what happened to Kevin, detectives start by asking Cedric about his friend's love life.
That's when Cedric explained that Coach Kevin was a player on and off the field.
I've always known him to have different relationships or sexual partners.
He was dating multiple women.
It appears that none of them were really his girlfriend.
However, Cedric insists that didn't make Kevin a bad guy.
Because I can honestly say that even the girls he was just sleeping with, he still had a level of compassion and concern.
In fact, Cedric says that Kevin was always upfront with the women he was dating.
Kevin was very transparent to the people that he was with. He told them that he was talking to multiple people.
Detectives had to consider whether the women that Kevin were seeing were casual and easygoing about relationship as he was.
Some, women get more attached than maybe you want them to be.
If Kevin was a player, perhaps we're dealing with a jealous girlfriend.
It opens it up to a point where maybe one of these women wanted something more or that he didn't want to give. Or
he never complained about any young lady.
Additionally, Cedric says that he doesn't know much at all about the various women Kevin had been seeing.
Mostly just our conversations where, hey, I was out last night and I met this girl, never really in detail.
He says the most recent exploit Kevin shared with him was typical of their exchanges.
He was just driving around the neighborhood, driving home. And he saw a young lady walking that just seemed like, I guess she shouldn't be in the neighborhood. And so he stopped and had a conversation with this particular person. And this young lady came by his home, either that night or the next night, but he never mentioned a name.
He said Kevin rarely named names.
My name's Kevin, by the way.
In fact, the only thing he really knows about her isn't exactly helpful for detectives.
Kevin mentioned her as having a big booty.
That was Kevin, so I didn't think anything out of the ordinary.
While Cedric offers detectives considerable insight into Kevin's life, it doesn't bring them much closer to finding his killer.
There was multiple people. It could have been.
Kind of sees a lot of different women.
Yes, sir.
Which is fine, it's a lifestyle.
But Cedric reveals the bachelor life wasn't the only lifestyle he was living.
A year back, he actually invited me to this Facebook group. People were setting up parties and meetings with one another.
The sort of meetings and parties that are at secretive hotels and clubs.
That it was a swingers party.
Detectives looking into the murder of Kevin Roman have just learned that the high school football coach was also involved in Houston's swinging community.
There was a Facebook page set up with all the people that were having these different types of parties.
So in this Facebook group, the primary purpose of the most part is to set up sexual engagements with other
Sexual engagement parties, people just wanting to have sexual experiences with other people, that kind of thing.
So he had multiple people that he was talking with.
It could be couples to couples, it could be singles to singles,
Yes, sir.
singles to couples.
Yes, sir.
Just no real rule set or anything, just kind of anything goes.
Not that I know of.
All Cedric knows for sure is that very few people in Kevin's life knew about his foray into the swinging world.
When it comes to sexual alternative lifestyle, quietness and discreetness is very important.
Kevin was a beloved coach at a Christian academy, so he had even more reason to be discreet.
His lifestyle didn't fit into the mold of what was expected.
After talking to Cedric, the detectives delve into the shadowy online world of Houston's swinging community.
Investigators try to figure out, whether or not there was a lead there.
Finding one would take time. There are lots of different groups, and most users go by pseudonyms.
Detectives also follow up on their one solid lead, Kevin's missing Jeep.
They contacted the dealership in which Kevin Roman purchased his Jeep from, and the dealership let him know, hey, we're able to track it because there should be a GPS device on it.
In most of these cases, GPS trackers are used for repossessions.
They want to get their car back, too, so they have a vested interest.
Just get it to me as soon as you can.
In assisting in this investigation.
The GPS data shows that Kevin's Jeep was parked at his house until the morning of September 4th.
But on the morning of September 5th, it pinged at another location. It's about 10 minutes from Kevin's house.
In the days after his death, it's given the same location.
Using the GPS information from the tracking device, detectives locate Kevin's Jeep.
It's been abandoned in a parking lot several miles from Kevin's house.
They found some of his stuff inside, and they found his cell phone.
The phone has been smashed and the battery removed.
There had to have been some information that was stored or that was inside the phone that the person wanted concealed.
Could there be incriminating text messages or photos between Kevin and his killer?
Maybe Kevin bumped into somebody at a swingers party that he knew from real life.
Clear Lake is a very small, tight-knit community. Most people know each other, or their children have gone to school with one another. And being a part of a swingers community can raise a lot of red flags.
Hoping for answers, detectives send the cell phone off to the lab.
Despite the condition of the phone, there's a chance that computer forensics can reconstruct some of the data.
But while they're waiting, the detectives get a call from Kevin's landlord.
What he tells them introduces a new level of the investigation.
Kevin is about 3 months behind on his rent.
The landlord wanted the detectives to release the apartment so he could rent it out again and recoup some of the money.
He also explains why Kevin was short of cash.
Kevin had recently lost his position at Clear Lake Christian after a new coach was hired.
Unfortunately, due to the politics of football, once a new head coach came in, he decided that he wanted to pretty much clean house, and he let Kevin Roman go.
He's had to take a job that he's not getting paid as much as he was.
That put him in a bind financially.
Could Kevin's money troubles have something to do with his death?
Maybe this is not a jealous lover at all. Maybe this is somebody who's upset about their money that Kevin may have owed them.
The theory sounds even more plausible after another friend of Kevin's reaches out to detectives.
He told detectives that Kevin owed one of his old girlfriends money.
Her name is Nikita Woodson.
Nikita Woodson has gone to social media about how upset she is about the amount of money that Kevin owes her.
And when Kevin's friend sits down with detectives, he says she was looking to collect.
He said he was at Kevin's house one night alone when Nikita showed up.
Tell Kevin to come in.
He's not here.
She came over there and talked about where Kevin at, where Kevin at, where Kevin at. He owed me some money, he owed me some money. I'm like, I don't know where you at.
He said he called Kevin and told him that Nikita was looking for him.
He didn't want to talk to her.
And according to Kevin's friend, that had only made Nikita angrier.
Y'all want to talk to me?
She was angry. And kind of like, if I have to say, it was more threatening than anything.
He better watch his back.
She gonna get the rest of her money somehow.
She decided to post some social media statuses about him owing her money.
And a couple of weeks later, he did.
Detectives investigating Kevin Roman's murder have learned that one of the coach's many ex-girlfriends had made threats against him.
He better watch his back.
She's upset because Kevin Roman owes her money.
Kevin was let go from the teaching job, so he was really struggling.
Not that it mattered to Nikita.
She probably loaned him money thinking that she was going to get it back. So hoping to embarrass him, she decided to post some social media statuses about him owing her money.
She made a post about the situation. What would you do about somebody that owe you money? She even called him out on it.
Kevin's friend has receipts too.
I could just show you her Facebook page.
She's made several posts about how upset she is about the amount of money that Kevin owes her.
What's even more interesting for detectives is that Kevin's friend can only show them screenshots of Nikita's posts.
Once news got around that Kevin was dead, Nikita had apparently deleted all her angry posts about him.
So now they're wondering, is she just trying to cover her tracks?
She was a key person to look at.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. Yeah. Show you out.
But when detectives attempt to locate Nikita, it turns out they don't have to go far to find her.
She was in jail when the murder most likely occurred.
Police confirmed that she was in jail on a probation violation.
She could not have possibly been the person that did this.
In the days and weeks that follow, detectives chase down every lead they possibly can.
This included going through Kevin's social media.
They wanted to find out who was connected to him or who he was seeing romantically.
Just look at Kevin's Facebook page up. I would like you to take a look at it. All right.
Then detectives circle back with Kevin's friends.
At this point, we've built a lot of profiles to try and get who people are.
Many of these people look familiar. She did look familiar, but I don't remember her name.
Unfortunately, because of the private lifestyle that Kevin had, a lot of people use anonymous type profiles.
All the leads that investigators had, they had worked as much as they could.
But all of those leads bring detectives to a dead end. And 3 years pass as Kevin's case goes cold.
Kevin's family likely went through a gut-wrenching couple of years to not have enough evidence to figure out who it was. It's almost like a gap, and you can't fill it.
And Kevin's family aren't the only ones suffering.
You also have the students that he made an impact on.
They were fighting for justice for him the way he fought for them on the field.
With each passing year, the hope that Kevin's killer would eventually be caught begins to fade.
Something like this will happen in the community, and then people tend to forget about things.
But the Houston police haven't given up on finding Kevin's killer.
They have protocols in place. You don't just get to shelve that case. They also have what's called cold case units that look at old cases.
In July of 2019, the cold case unit reopens the Kevin Roman murder file.
So now we've got a fresh pair of eyes that are looking at this case.
The first thing of interest to the new detective is the demolished phone found in Kevin's Jeep.
They thought with advancements in technology, something could be recovered. But in the meantime, they pulled the phone records.
They crushed the phone, so clearly anything linked to the phone should be investigated.
Sifting through Kevin's phone records, the cold case detective spots something intriguing.
There's a pattern in this one phone number that stopped calling him on the day that he died.
All of Kevin's other friends were still reaching out.
Does the person behind the mystery number know something the rest of Kevin's friends don't?
Why call a dead man?
Okay.
When the detective runs the number, it comes back to a woman named LaQuinta Johnson and her brother, Derek Brown.
They had one line that they shared. Both of their names were on it.
The brother and sister also shared an apartment.
And you'll never guess where.
Derek Brown and his sister, LaQuinta, live directly across the street from where the Jeep was abandoned.
Now, if you're a detective, your heart's racing. This is a lead, this is the hunt.
Woman's phone records. The new detective on the case believes he has identified 2 potential suspects in the murder of the beloved football coach.
There is somebody constantly calling Kevin and vice versa. And suddenly, from about the time that they believed Kevin was murdered, there's no communication at all.
The number that had suddenly stopped calling belongs to LaQuinta Johnson and her brother, Derek Brown.
They lived across the street from where the car was found.
So now the detective is thinking, did Kevin have a relationship with LaQuinta?
Or was Derek possibly the connection? Hoping to learn more, the detective runs background checks on the siblings.
When you look up both names, one person has a criminal record, Derek.
It was mostly petty stuff, nothing that screamed hardened killer.
But there is one seemingly minor incident on Derek's rap sheet that raises a red flag. A routine traffic stop on September 12th, 2016.
That's 2 days after they find Kevin's body.
There was a weapon in the car.
It was a .45 caliber handgun.
It's the same type of weapon that killed Kevin.
He was thrown in jail for unlawfully carrying of a weapon.
He's a convicted felon and can't legally own the gun.
However, the gun charges were eventually dropped.
His girlfriend claims that that is her gun, and so he is released.
But the gun was still sitting in the department's evidence room.
Suspecting they've had the murder weapon this entire time, the detective retrieves the gun and sends it to the crime lab.
Through ballistics, they had ascertained that that gun matched up with the bullets found at the crime scene.
Sure enough, it is actually the gun that killed Kevin.
But does that mean Derek killed Kevin?
Just because he had the gun in his car does not automatically mean he did it.
Or could it be LaQuinta? Police have reason to believe that's the case when they receive the result of the crime lab's forensic work on Kevin's phone.
The attempt had been made to smash it, but they were able to still get inside the phone.
The detective finds the number Derek and LaQuinta shared listed in the contacts.
There was no name, just cue big booty, she was walking home.
Could LaQuinta be the same woman that Kevin told his friend Cedric about shortly before the murder?
This was early August. He was just driving around the neighborhood and he saw a young lady walking.
He noted that she had a big booty.
The information recovered from Kevin's phone also reveals that he and LaQuinta started talking around August 12th, 2016.
They're able to find numerous exchanges between her and Kevin.
You got 2 texts, bro. This girl from the other night. I actually got her number when she was walking down the street.
The flirty messages suggested a sexual relationship.
Then, on September 1st, came a sudden flurry of text messages from LaQuinta to Kevin.
She was just furious.
She accused him of cheating on her.
Kevin tried his best to calm LaQuinta down.
He asked her to come over on September the 3rd of 2016.
And sometime within the next few hours, he was dead.
Based on when Kevin went silent, the detectives suspect that the murder occurred in the early morning hours of September 4th.
The puzzle pieces begin to fall into place.
Although when the detective subpoenas LaQuinta's phone records, there's a piece missing.
They see that her phone was actually turned off on September the 3rd. And then on September the 4th, her phone is turned back on.
The first ping when her phone turned back on was at 6:01 a.m. on September 4, 2016.
The tower her phone connects to is near her apartment,
which also happens to be near where police found Kevin's Jeep.
The first call she makes after that is to another number registered to her brother, who was later arrested with the murder weapon in his car.
So this shows some unusual behavior.
Digging deeper, the detective learns that LaQuinta also received several calls from her brother while he was in jail on the weapons charge.
This was after the traffic stop where, although they did not know it at the time, police located the murder weapon.
Well, the police pulled the phone records.
When you're inside of a police building or in the county jail, all of your activities are seen, all of your phone calls recorded.
Hello?
And what the tapes reveal is damning.
I thought you were gonna get rid of it.
I can't trace it back to him. He's telling her, don't worry about it.
But they're gonna come after you for it.
The cold case detective investigating the murder of beloved high school football coach Kevin Roman has uncovered a series of potentially incriminating jailhouse phone calls between LaQuinta Johnson and her brother, Derek Brown.
The calls occurred when Derek was in jail, after officers found a .45 caliber handgun in his possession during a traffic stop.
He was caught with the murder weapon.
But does that mean he was Kevin's killer?
I told you. I told you what to do with it.
After listening to Derek's conversation with LaQuinta, the detective isn't so sure.
What is she saying? I can't let you do time for me. And other indications implying that perhaps she is the killer and not her brother.
I'll tell you after you're done. Get up, put your hands up on him. Sorry. Why is y'all arresting me, sir?
Based on the evidence in the tapes, Houston police take LaQuinta into custody and bring her in for questioning.
They get what's called the probable cause warrant.
She started out trying to minimize her relationship with Kevin.
Did you ever go out with a guy named Kevin Roman?
Kevin. Yeah, that name do sound familiar, though.
Okay. If I show you a picture, maybe it'll help refresh your memory. This guy?
Yes. We dated, not nothing serious.
Fed up with LaQuinta's stonewalling, the detective cuts to the chase.
All I know is you're involved with Kevin up until September 4th, and then you never called him. And you're at his place, and then you leave that morning. And his car ends up parked at the complex across the street from where you were living at the time. And your brother shows up with the gun that killed him. There's got to be an explanation for that, LaQuinta.
Begins to look like, her brother is going to go down for this.
That's all it takes for LaQuinta to crack.
Just leave my brother out of this because he did not have nothing to do with it. He never gave me no gun. None of that.
Then what happened?
I'm telling you what happened, sir. He did not have nothing to do with it.
She didn't want to feel guilty about her brother going down for something that she did.
You did.
I did it. I did it, sir.
She begins to confess, to tell him this is what really happened.
LaQuinta admits to meeting up with Kevin the night of September 4th 2016.
They went out, they went back to his house, and they had sex.
But then, after Kevin had fallen asleep, she decided to do a little snooping.
I went through the phone.
Okay.
I got jealous. I liked him. He was sweet and gentle.
She apparently had feelings for Kevin Roman that he was not returning.
She wanted to be in a relationship with a man who didn't want to be in a monogamous relationship with her.
It's not fair play.
She was experiencing a lot of intense emotions. Things like rage, anger, extreme sadness, frustration.
According to LaQuinta, all those emotions took over on the night of the murder.
And that gun was not in Kevin's house. That was yours.
I brought it with me. Like I always do. I always carry it with me.
And that night, she used it.
I stood over him and shot him in the head.
Her act was impulsive. The shooting of him was very impulsive, and it is congruent with someone who doesn't have emotional regulation.
Before the detectives book her into the jail on murder charges, LaQuinta records a video for her brother.
Whatever you have to do, you tell them. You testify against me. You didn't know nothing about it. You didn't have anything to do with it. I did everything myself. I'm sorry, brother, for even putting you in this. I love you.
Exonerated by his sister's confession, Derek Brown faces no charges related to Kevin's death.
Investigators chose not to go down the road of charging Derek Brown with tampering with evidence, and he could have been very much so liable for that. But in the grand scheme of things, more than likely the investigators looked at, we have the murder, we got the confession.
In December of 2021, more than 5 years after the murder of Kevin Roman, LaQuinta Johnson pleads guilty to murder.
By doing a plea deal, it saves the state a lot of money. It saves a lot of time, a lot of effort. It also guarantees that that person will be convicted.
She is sentenced to 45 years.
She will more than likely end up dying behind bars.
I believe justice was served. But justice is a tricky thing to pin down. It is very subjective. What one person thinks is justice is not for the next person.
Even with people saying, well, it should be a life for a life, even then, it doesn't feel like enough, because what really is going on is a condition of the heart. It's the condition of love and missing someone.
I need you. This team needs you, all right?
People lost a good friend, a coach, a family member.
I need you guys on the team.
And there's not anything that is tangible that can ever replace a human's life, right? There's no amount of money, there's no amount of time. It's literally just a gut-wrenching sadness.
But at the same time, Coach Kevin will always be remembered.
Anybody who's played a high school sport, in particularly high school football, they're going to remember their coaches. They're going to remember the inspiration that they gave them. Regardless if it's 50 years later, they're going to remember.
When a dashing officer and a beautiful deputy jailer join forces, it seems like a match made in heaven.
I think they had an attraction because they both worked in law enforcement. He was sort of this charming guy, so they started dating, and I think she fell pretty hard.
But just when their lives seem destined for greatness, an unexpected disappearance upends their world. There was a buzz in the city about a missing police officer.
We knew something bad probably gonna come after this.
As investigators search for answers, they'll soon find themselves plunged into uncharted waters. A place where secrets bubble just under the surface and deadly sins flow like blood.
There are drugs, there's a lot of criminal activity. Officers are often the targets of bad people.
His one vice was probably that he liked women a little too well.
He's coming towards her, and that's what happens.
It just was a bad situation. Never should have happened.
They got away with a capital murder.
Monday, September 4th, 2006. It's Labor Day weekend in Memphis, Tennessee. All across town, families are enjoying end-of-summer barbecues. But at the home of Ethel Hayes, the absence of her beloved son, Tony, a 9-year veteran of the Memphis Police Department, is putting a damper on the festivities.
He hasn't contacted any of you and said he wasn't coming?
I didn't talk to him today. The last I heard, he said he was coming. People has been picking up his son and bring him to the barbecue too. And he never did show up. It kind of alarmed the family that he didn't pick his son up because there's certain things Tony would not do, and not picking up his son was one of them. He loved his son very much.
Over the next few hours, Tony's family continues to try to track him down.
Answer. Every time I call, I just get the voicemail. I'm telling you, something's not right. It's not right.
My grandma was start calling everybody that she knew that knew Tony, see could they get in touch with him. No one knew where Tony was.
But the disappearance of Officer Tony Hayes is a mystery that's only beginning to unfold. One that'll have many wondering just who in this story was on the wrong side of the law.
We just in a while. How can something happen like this? Everything's just crazy.
Tony Hayes was born in 1969 in the new Chicago neighborhood of Memphis, Tennessee.
It was a low-income neighborhood, but there was a sense of pride in the community. Even though it's low-income, my parents were still values in us.
Values that the whole Hayes family took to heart.
The Hayes family was a very loving, caring family. Mother Hayes, she did not play with her children. They knew that she was their friend, but she was also the law in that household.
In this strict yet caring environment, Tony grew up to be a model citizen.
He was just a very disciplined person. After high school, Tony went off to the Marine Corps. He served his country during the Persian Gulf War. And I think maybe saw himself becoming a law enforcement officer.
A dream that came true after Tony left the Marine Corps and returned home to Memphis.
When Tony became the Memphis police officer, that was a sense of pride and accomplishment for him.
For the next 9 years, Tony worked some of the most dangerous beats in the city.
Tony was an undercover cop. He do his job to the fullest, and he was a hard worker. He ultimately arose to the rank of sergeant and was proud of that accomplishment, as was his family.
But Tony's success in life extended well beyond the workplace.
You guys are cool.
He also fared well with the ladies.
Good evening, ladies. How you doing? He was about 6'1" in height and very athletically built. And he was all muscle and wasn't no fat. He wore nice clothes. And he was a car enthusiast, though. So, he loved cars. He always had a nice car and kept himself up. So, like I said, the ladies probably found Tony very attractive.
Like his prized cars, Tony had a soft spot for beautiful women. And over the next few years, he married twice.
He met his first wife after he got out of the military. She was drop-dead gorgeous, as was his second wife.
Though both marriages ended in divorce, there was a silver lining.
Even though the breakups were hard, Tony's second wife blessed him with a son, and that son became the light of his life.
He was very crazy about his son. It looked like he was Tony's mini-me. He was an excellent father, spent a lot of time with his son, and really provided a great role model for that young man.
Though Tony was a loving father, he longed to have a woman in his life to help him raise young Devin. And in the spring of 2005, Tony met the drop-dead gorgeous 36-year-old Monique Johnson.
Tony Hayes met Monique Johnson while he was moonlighting as a security guard at the apartment complex where she lived.
It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, beautiful.
Monique would be what a lot of people considered very attractive. She described herself as light-skinned with long hair and having it going on.
Tony was really taken by her appearance.
For Monique, the attraction was mutual.
That is important.
Yeah, sure.
He was sort of this kind of charming guy, so they started dating, and I think she fell pretty hard for Tony. He would take her out to eat. They were spending every day together. He would send her flowers.
But as the couple ignited their romance, it didn't take Tony long to realize that Monique may be more than just a passing fling.
There's no doubt Monique and Tony had a lot in common.
Monique Johnson was a native of the region, had a hard upbringing, but managed to bring herself up by her own bootstraps. She was married and divorced, had 2 children.
Like Tony, Monique also shared a passion for law enforcement.
Monique worked as a deputy jailer for the Shelby County Sheriff's Department.
Having so much in common only heightened the couple's attraction to one another. But it was in the bedroom where the sparks really flew.
It became incredibly passionate, and it moved very quickly.
It was passionate, hot, and it seemed perfect. They were planning a future.
Though both Tony and Monique had tried and failed at marriage before, by the spring of 2006, the couple was talking engagement rings and wedding vows.
Tony was telling Monique, hey, one day we're going to get married and have this family. They both believed that the part that had been missing in their lives had been completed.
In light of Tony's newfound happiness, his disappearance on September 4th, 2006 is even more concerning.
We want to know, why would he do this? Why he want to answer his phone, and why he want to call nobody and tell somebody where he is.
The following morning, Tony is absent from roll call at the Memphis Police's Union Station precinct, which makes his fellow officers extremely worried.
Does anybody see Hayes?
By all accounts, Tony was a model officer, and when he failed to show up for his shift, alarm bells started to go off.
The police, to say the least, were taking Tony's disappearance very seriously. But just what had happened to Officer Tony Hayes?
Try calling him again?
His colleagues and friends are determined to find out.
The Memphis Police Department was going to be very aggressive about it. We knew that it was going to be passionate for them, as it was for us, to see what they thought was justice.
Together, Deputy Jailer Monique Johnson and Police Officer Tony Hayes were already talking marriage.
Tony and Monique fell in love hard, and it was fast.
They appeared to be happy and a good match.
24 hours, and his colleagues at the Memphis Police Department are growing increasingly concerned.
The last time that his family had seen or spoken to Tony was on the afternoon of September the 3rd. He was supposed to come to a family picnic the next day, but he failed to show up.
Tony goes missing, and it does become a big deal quickly. Because of Tony's occupation, both as a police officer and the fact that he worked as security at the apartment complex, gave him exposure to a lot of volatile situations.
While Tony was missing, there were several scenarios discussed within the police department amongst his friends and family. Was someone put out a hit on Tony? Was it the result of some sort of investigation in which he was involved?
They were looking. The police were actively looking everywhere they could. While detectives comb through Tony's arrest records in search of a lead, a team of officers execute a search of his home.
There's no evidence of foul play, but a search of his residence revealed his Lexus is missing from the garage. Car's gone.
Police were looking for those plates in that car.
By that afternoon, Tony's disappearance is the talk of the town.
Missing persons reports typically get some media coverage depending on who is missing. But when a Memphis police officer, person in charge of protecting the community, is now missing, it certainly got our attention and was quickly on the TV news, radio news, even in the newspaper.
Though Tony Hayes' loved ones are grateful for the attention, their fears continue to mount.
I try to be optimistic, but after a day had went by and he hadn't called his mom, he hadn't checked in on his son, it became very evident that something was wrong.
No one seems more concerned about Tony's disappearance than his beloved girlfriend, Monique Johnson.
She was expressing her worry over Tony because she had called him several times and kept getting his machine. And so she said it was very unusual because if he wouldn't call back, he would text back.
But Monique's other pressing concern is the well-being of Tony's 11-year-old son, Devin.
She decided she'd check on the son. So she got a French fries and a hamburger and took that over.
How you doing, kiddo? I just wish I knew where my dad was. Me too.
Later that evening, investigators get their first chance to speak to Monique Johnson at her home in a brand new suburban development.
When was the last time that you actually saw Tony?
That would have had to have been the morning of Monday, September 4th.
She said that they went to the casinos and they stayed down there that night and that they came back and that he was going to pick up the son.
Was that the last time you heard from him? Yes, and I went to the movies that night. When I got out, I heard that Tony had been missing.
Have you ever had any kind of problems in your relationship
No,
with Tony?
not at all. I love him so much. And I really just hope that you guys find him.
As a deputy jailer in Shelby County, Monique knew the dangers of law enforcement. She was extremely worried about Tony's whereabouts, and she was hoping that everything would turn out okay.
They checked her story out, and she had gone out to see a movie the night of Tony's disappearance.
But before detectives leave that evening, they ask Monique one last question.
One angle we're still pursuing is that his disappearance was work-related. So, had he mentioned anything to you about work lately? Any issues? Actually, there is.
Look, I ain't got time to be standing out here all night. Come on, open the door. Stop playing.
She remembers something happening at the apartments where he had to pull a gun on a guy and the guy threatened him.
Yo, I need to calm down now. The premises now. I'll see you later, partner. I'll be back.
This was the apartment complex where Tony moonlighted. So there was some fear that something could have happened there. He was essentially off duty and alone and far more susceptible.
While detectives dispatch a team to investigate Monique's allegations, they return to their station for a scheduled meeting with some of Tony's closest colleagues.
They thought Tony's co-workers might know something about problems with former perps.
But what Tony's co-workers are about to reveal will stun detectives, leaving them to wonder if this top cop had actually been living a double life.
This isn't the kind of thing you'd expect to turn up, and detectives realized it was going to be a game changer.
Memphis police officer Tony Hayes seemed to have it all. A great career, a beautiful son, and a stunning girlfriend who set his heart aflame. But now Tony has disappeared without a trace, and detectives fear that he may have been targeted by a violent criminal with an axe to grind.
Police put themselves out there every day. Just going to work, it's possible they could be shot just for wearing the uniform.
Monique told police that Tony had recently been threatened by a guy at the apartment complex where Tony moonlighted.
But while searching for the mystery man who threatened Tony, detectives are also questioning Tony's colleagues at the Memphis Police Department.
The priority is to find Tony. And so, I'm just here to ask you if you have anything you can share with us.
Anything could have happened to him, but his personal life is pretty complicated too.
What do you mean exactly?
That's when Tony's colleagues informed detectives that technically, Tony never officially divorced his ex-wife, Kayla Hayes.
During the investigation, Memphis PD discovers that Tony Hayes is married.
Tony's colleagues don't know, however, if Tony's wife knew about Monique, or if Monique knew about Tony's wife.
At this point, detectives can't help but wonder, could Tony have been murdered by his own wife?
Thank you very much.
To answer that question, they decide to speak to Tony's wife, Kayla Hayes.
They learn that she is actually living and working in Las Vegas.
After contacting their counterparts at the Vegas PD, a local detective heads to Kayla's home.
Ms. Hayes, I'm with the Las Vegas Police Department. Do you mind if I come in and speak with you for a moment?
Is this about Tony?
Yes, it is.
Kayla explains that a couple of days earlier, she had received word from Tony's family that he had gone missing.
When was the last time you spoke with Tony?
Honestly, it had been a while.
Kayla explains that they had been separated for about a year and 4 months. In fact, they had only been married for about 3 months before that.
We lived together in Memphis, but it was clear really early on that it just wasn't going to work out.
She said they wanted different things out of life, but apparently, Tony had a wandering eye.
His one advice was probably that he liked women a little too well. He was what could be called a player.
Were you aware he was seeing a woman named Monique Johnson?
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, we'd spoke. His wife was calling to talk to Tony. And since Monique had Tony's phone, she answered. And the wife's going, "Who are you?" And Monique's going, "Who are you?" She goes, "Well, I'm his wife." Well, that didn't sit well with Monique.
And how did you feel that he was seeing another woman?
Look, I have my life and he has his.
Kayla was adamant that she had nothing to do with Tony's disappearance and that she was in Las Vegas September 4th. And when they checked the car and flight records, her story checked out.
While Tony's wife Kayla seems innocent of any wrongdoing, her statement prompts detectives in Memphis to pay another visit to Tony's girlfriend, Monique Johnson.
They go back to Monique and they confront her about what they know at this point.
Monique doesn't deny any of it. She admits that she was furious when she found out that Tony was married.
When were you going to tell me?
Babe, listen to me.
No. When were you going to tell me? When were you going to tell me that you were married?
I'm sorry, I just didn't know how to tell you. It was over months before we met each other. Monique, it's just me and you.
According to Monique, Tony reassured her that she had nothing to worry about. Eventually, they reconcile, and since then, they hadn't had any other problem.
Detectives aren't sure what to make of Monique's story, but with no sign of Tony and no evidence of foul play, there's little else they can do.
They had a feeling Monique wasn't telling the whole story, but a feeling isn't grounds for an arrest.
While Monique remains adamant she has no idea what happened to Tony, investigators wonder if Tony's phone records might shed more light on his disappearance.
They pulled Tony's phone records and see he had gotten a text from a woman at 7 a.m. But this woman wasn't Monique Johnson.
Her name was Kim Chapman. So, of course, the next question from police is, who is this woman? What's her connection to Tony Hayes?
That afternoon, detectives ask Kim Chapman to come to the station for an interview. When Kim arrives, she makes quite the impression.
She was very different from Monique. She was a professional woman. She was about 6 feet tall. She had a large frame. Detectives want to know what her connection is to Tony Hayes. And she says they've been casually dating for the past few months.
The reason we called you in is because we've obtained phone records indicating you had contact with Tony on the date of his disappearance.
Yeah, I texted him because I wanted to go jogging. I was seeing if he was able to come with me.
According to Kim, she got a call back from Tony's phone a short time later. But the voice on the other end of the line wasn't what she expected.
What Kim reveals next will dramatically alter the course of the investigation into Tony Hayes' disappearance and illuminate just how sordid and potentially deadly his love life had become.
I think he was a fun-loving guy, a good guy, but someone who played the field too much, and he just played with the wrong one.
For more than 48 hours, police in Memphis, Tennessee have been desperately trying to track down their missing colleague, Tony Hayes. The search for Tony has led investigators to a trio of beautiful young women, including Tony's wife, Kayla, his girlfriend, Monique Johnson, and the young woman now seated across from them at the station, Kim Chapman.
Kim Chapman admitted she and Tony were seeing each other, and that she had texted him to go jogging the day he went missing. Investigators want to know if she had anything to do with his disappearance.
The last contact that you had with Tony was that text?
Well, I got a call back from someone else. I don't know who she is. Her name was Monique. Hello?
Kim says she answered the phone expecting it to be Tony, but instead, somebody else was on the line. Monique Johnson.
Monique says, "What are you doing getting together with Tony?" And Kim's going, "Whoa, who are you and why do you care?"
And Monique said, "Well, who are you? I'm Tony's girlfriend. Well, he's been with me all weekend. Did you know about me?"
Kim claims the call dropped moments later, but not before she heard another voice in the background.
Tony!
Kim says she heard Tony's voice. He was angry, and Monique was just giving it right back to him.
Monique Johnson had previously told told police she had no reason to harm Tony. But if Kim Chapman's statement is true, detectives have proof that Monique and Tony got in a heated argument just hours before he disappeared.
The detectives don't think this is a coincidence.
That evening, investigators bring Monique in for questioning a third time and confront her about Kim's allegations.
We're going to give you one last chance to be honest with us and tell us what really happened to Tony Hayes.
I don't know.
Ms. Johnson, we talked to Kim Chapman. She told us that the day that Tony disappeared, you and him got into a scuffle.
Monique knows she's in a really bad place. So she says, okay, I'll talk.
Monique says that after she confronted Tony about his marriage to Kayla Hayes, he assured her there were no other women in his life. But over time, Monique began to doubt that he was truly faithful to her.
There were some flags. It would be unexplained absences, or a refusal to really acknowledge where he'd been or what he'd been doing, or phone calls that he couldn't take. That's when tempers began to flare on both sides. He became very adamant about it not happening, or angry that she didn't trust him, and she was very angry that he wasn't trustworthy.
Monique claims that the situation came to a head the morning Tony disappeared.
The phone is going off, and she's compelled by the mistrust to look at the phone. And it's a text.
Monique says the text was from one Kim Chapman.
Monique said in her statement that she was tired of being played around with.
She couldn't take it no more. She was just real jealous.
She grabbed the phone and left Tony's house while he was in the shower and jumped in her car and began to call the female.
According to Monique, she was driving to her house while on the phone with Kim, and by the time she pulled into her garage, she was boiling mad.
Who the hell is this? While Monique is having this conversation with Kim, she spots Tony in her rearview mirror. He's caught up to her and wants his phone back.
Give me the damn phone! Give me the damn phone! I told you I'm serious! Give me the damn phone!
According to Monique, that's when Tony lunged at her.
She doesn't think he's coming for the phone. She thinks he's coming for her.
She described it, Tony hit her this time.
Get off the car!
Monique claims Tony's aggressive behavior was so terrifying that she feared for her life. That's when she reached for Tony's .40 caliber handgun, which he'd recently left under the passenger seat of her car.
And that's what happens. She remembers the first shot, and that's about all she remembers. She asserts she acted in self-defense.
But if Monique had truly acted in self-defense, why is this the first time detectives are hearing this story?
From her perspective, because Tony was a police officer, she was afraid to go and confess to the same people that he worked with.
Monique says that in a panic, she turned to the only person she could think of, her son from a previous marriage, 16-year-old Donald Wallace.
Monique enlists the help of her son to remove Tony's body from the home, stuff him in the trunk of his own Lexus. She's made the son an accomplice to that act. I mean, what a horrible thing to do to your 16-year-old.
Detectives push Monique to tell them where Tony's body is. Monique does them one better. She takes them to the East Memphis apartment complex where she and her son Donald abandoned the vehicle.
They placed her in the squad car, and she took them directly to Tony's Lexus. And the body was in the trunk of that vehicle.
They backed it in so no one would notice the license plates.
That body had been sitting there for 4 days in this Memphis heat, and it was highly deformed. It was very hard to look at the body and even tell that it was Tony.
While CSIs process the car, detectives break the tragic news to Tony's family.
The police department came over there and told her that Monique Johnson has confessed to what happened. Well, they was devastated. You know, so many hopes and dreams are lost when your child is gone. You know he's not going to come back, and it's especially when it's due to violence. It just hurts more.
With Monique's confession, this deputy jailer now finds herself behind bars, though she doesn't expect to be there for long.
She remained adamant that this was purely a case of self-defense and that she was the victim, not Tony.
But soon, an unlikely witness will step forward with new information. Information that threatens to turn the whole case upside down.
It's so inexcusable. It's not just the public doesn't understand, nobody understands.
September 8th, 2006. In a Memphis police station, Monique Johnson confessed to shooting her boyfriend, police officer Tony Hayes, in a heated argument inside the garage of her home. A shooting Monique insists she only committed in self-defense.
She claims he lunged at her, struck her, attacked her, and she defended herself.
To find out if there's any truth to Monique's story, investigators bring in the young man who helped Monique move Tony's body, her 16-year-old son, Donald.
Your mother told us that you helped her carry Tony's body.
Donald, because of that, at this point we're going to be charging you with accessory after the fact, okay? However, if you're willing to cooperate with us, there's a chance that we can get you off or help at least cut you a deal. Okay?
Donald starts by telling detectives where to find the gun used in the shooting. It's in a garbage dumpster at an East Memphis apartment complex.
It was Tony's personal weapon, a .40 caliber pistol.
But that isn't all Donald tells police. He also makes a chilling revelation about the hours following Tony's death.
There was a time period after the shooting where Monique and her son left. They went to TGI Fridays, and then they went to a movie with some family members and saw snakes on a plane.
And she went to dinner and a movie and enjoyed herself while her supposed boyfriend is starting to rot.
Was this the behavior simply of a woman in shock? Or was Monique actively trying to establish an alibi for herself in order to throw police off her trail? What Donald says next gives investigators a possible clue. In fact, he claims he was in the house at the time of the shooting.
He hears a series of gunshots go off in his own house, and he is instinctively terrified of what has happened to his mother.
Mom, what did you do to him?
He eventually gets into the bedroom and discovers his mother, frantic by that point, and Tony lying on the floor bleeding.
The significance of that statement is that it directly contradicts Monique's version of events. She claims the shooting took place in the garage.
Police execute a search warrant of Monique's home, but at first there seems to be a problem with young Donald's story.
There was no blood. No blood up in that bathroom or bedroom. No bullets.
But as investigators take a closer look at the scene, they spot something unusual about the doors leading to the bathroom.
The paint didn't actually match up with the same paint that Monique had on her house. So you could tell that there had been one of the doors replaced in her home.
Detectives confront Monique about the new doors in her house, as well as the discrepancy between Donald's statement and her own version of what happened. Once again, Monique changes her story. She now claims that her fight began in the garage, but ended inside the house.
That whirlwind proceeds into the house. Tony's following her.
Monique says she fled to the safety of her master bedroom, but Tony forced his way inside.
He slams the door, locks it, and she feels a fist hit her in the back of the head.
Monique claims that before she knew what was happening, Tony was physically assaulting her. Thankfully, she managed to escape into the bathroom, but Tony didn't stop coming for her.
She's really getting scared. She's telling him, Tony, just leave me alone, Tony, go. He's coming into the bathroom towards her. Finally, she finds her way back to her master closet, just behind the bathroom. That's where her gun is.
She felt like she had nowhere to hide, nowhere to go, and nothing to do other than to defend herself.
After the first shot, she describes herself as going into a state of shock. She is unable to really accurately describe the physicality of what happened, the number of bullets that come out of the gun.
In the aftermath that followed, Monique says she noticed a bullet hole in one of the bathroom doors.
Monique went to one of the empty homes or model homes in the neighborhood and took one of the doors out of another model home and brought it and put it back on her bathroom door.
All the while, Monique's son was helping her do this.
Just grab his feet and help me.
But Monique insists that she only concocted her first story to try to minimize her son's role in the shooting.
She doesn't want Donald involved. She doesn't want him to go to jail. She wanted him out of it.
She was a mother trying to protect her son.
For Memphis authorities, Monique's shifting story casts serious doubt on her claims of self-defense.
Her story keeps changing. First, the argument and the shooting take place in the garage. Then, it had happened upstairs in her bedroom.
Later that day, the coroner's office releases Tony's autopsy report, and it casts even more doubt over Monique's statement.
He was shot 6 times. 4 bullets entered through his back, 1 through his chest, and 1 through his head at a downward angle. This woman, who's 5'6", was supposedly cowering from a 6'1" man.
4 shots in the back, 1 in the head and downward projectile. So what does that look like? It looks like she's standing over him, executing him, and 1 in the chest.
There was no doubt in the state's mind that this was a premeditated murder.
Since the statement from Monique's son Donald helped investigators get closer to the truth, they grant him some leeway on the accessory charges.
Donald was placed on judicial diversion for his role. He was really given a great opportunity to move forward with his life.
But prosecutors plan to pursue Monique with the full force of the law. On February 9th, 2007, Monique Johnson is indicted on first-degree murder charges.
If she was convicted, she could spend the rest of her life in prison.
But was this truly the slam-dunk case that prosecutors believed? Or was Monique Johnson and her defense team saving the best version of her ever-changing story for last?
Everyone, again, they rushed to judgment. And all we could say was, you just wait until you hear the full story before you make your judgment of Monique Johnson.
With Tony, we spoke for about 45 minutes. And during that 45 minutes, Monique texted and called him about 6 times. And I can remember him telling me she's very needy. She needs a lot of my time. Tony described her as being overwhelming, but I didn't ever let it run across my mind that she would be capable of doing something like that.
In Memphis, Monique Johnson insists she acted in self-defense when she shot and killed her boyfriend, police officer Tony Hayes. But prosecutors believe Monique murdered Tony in cold blood.
The crux of this case essentially revolves around whether or not Monique Johnson was the victim, the perpetrator, or both of intimate partner violence.
Before the case even makes it to trial, sparring begins between the prosecution and defense. At a pretrial hearing, Monique's legal team tries to keep crime scene photos out of court.
The pictures that were taken of the car and the trunk when they opened it and found Tony Hayes there were particularly graphic, and it was the state's contention that it was essential that the jury see these pictures, because this is in fact what she did to him. This is what Monique did to Tony.
But according to the defense, these photos had nothing to do with how Tony was murdered and were just the byproduct of decomposition in the sweltering Memphis heat.
We were able to keep some of those pictures out because they were pretty nasty and pretty ugly.
The judge did not let any pictures of his body go to the jury. I knew that was going to hurt us with the jury because pictures speak 1,000 words and jurors want to see them.
On February 12th, 2008, Monique Johnson's murder trial gets underway inside a packed Shelby County courtroom.
It's a case that's captured the public's fascination, probably because it does involve an attractive couple, one of whom's a police officer and the other's a correctional officer. You'd expect them to behave better.
Against her two-timing boyfriend.
Tony did have a reputation for playing around with women, and I don't think she wanted to be played with. She was angry.
So angry, in fact, that when Monique discovered Kim Chapman's text message on September 4th, 2006, the beautiful femme fatale concocted a plan to exact the ultimate revenge against her unfaithful boyfriend.
The state feels like Monique's state of mind was She was, in essence, creating a trap. Monique wanted to trap him back in her bedroom.
Tony was shot 6 times, including a round that was fired in a downward trajectory. As far as the state was concerned, that seriously undermined Monique's story of self-defense.
Then there's Monique's evasive actions in the aftermath of the shooting. She lied to police, she hid his body and the weapon used to kill him, and cleaned up the scene.
But Monique's defense team asserts their client did have a legitimate reason to be scared of Tony Hayes that morning.
The defense team essentially stated that she was a battered woman and was acting in self-defense.
She said maybe 3 months into the relationship was the first episode of abuse. A few months later, there's this next episode, and eventually it was more frequent.
To bolster their claims of abuse, the defense calls several members of Monique's family to the witness stand.
They testified that they had seen marks on her neck and on her thighs.
But for prosecutors, as well as Tony's friends and family, the abuse allegations don't hold much water.
The reason Monique said that she pulled the trigger, that my uncle was abusive. But no police report on domestic violence or nothing like that ever happened. I knew Tony for 32 years. I never knew him to ever hit a lady. I think Monique was just trying to come up with a defense.
In fact, prosecutors say if anyone in the relationship had a history of violence, it was Monique. As proof, they point to a report Tony filed against her in May of 2006.
In a fit of jealous rage, Monique cut Tony's clothes, carved obscenities into his headboard and into the side of his car, cut the electrical cords on his appliances, and poured baby oil into his shoes.
Tony did call police, though he didn't go forward with charges.
So it was clear in the state's mind that he was the victim. He was the one who was being psychologically abused.
So was Monique Johnson a violent and vindictive lover like prosecutors claim? Or is she, as the defense suggests, a victim of abuse? On Valentine's Day 2008, jurors got to hear Monique's side of the story firsthand.
I was very concerned that Monique probably should not take the stand. But in trying to establish self-defense, the jury would need to hear from Monique. They would need to understand her mental state.
She would start crying when presented with certain things, like her prior vandalism. She would go, well, you know, he just did so much to make me so angry, and I felt like I could never be free of him. And it was all her being oppressed.
I would ask her, did you love Tony? And she would start bawling and say, yeah, I loved him. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want him to die. It became pretty clear that she wasn't just this cold, calculating killer, but was truly someone who was in love with Tony and didn't know how to get away from him.
But who would the jury find more credible? Monique and her emotional testimony, or the state and its physical and circumstantial evidence? On February 15th, they hand down their verdict.
She wasn't found guilty of first-degree murder, but a lesser charge of reckless homicide, which carries a 2 to 4 year sentence.
For prosecutors and Tony's family, it's a crushing defeat.
It was just like someone had knocked all the air out of me. Really? Did we hear this right? This can't be true.
The real victim of domestic violence situation was Tony Hayes. He lost his life. He was shot 6 times, and she got away with murder.
For Monique Johnson, the verdict is better than anything she could have imagined.
That was a huge win for us. Huge. Probably one of the best verdicts I've received in my lifetime as a trial attorney.
Ultimately, Monique was sentenced to 4 years in prison. After taking into account the 2 years she had already served, she only has to serve another 2.
And though Monique Johnson is now a free woman, her verdict is still a deeply divisive subject in Memphis. In a story rife with infidelity and mistrust, at least both sides can still agree on one thing.
There are no winners here. This was just ugly. These two never.
She was a hard-working young woman with her eyes on the future.
She was so independent. She was determined. She worked 2 jobs.
But there was only one man for her.
She just was so in love with him.
It was her first relationship.
And unfortunately, it would also be her last.
Her mother found the body. After that, I don't remember anything. It was so heartbreaking.
But is her death a random act of senseless violence?
That has always been a high crime area.
The investigation will reveal a deadly deception.
Some people are just so greedy. She was blind. She couldn't see it.
October 15th, 2016. It's Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for the blues.
It has a very homegrown vibe to it. Isaac Hayes, B.B. King, all of the greats, including Elvis. This is a city which nurtures music.
However, there's more to this city of 600,000 than Beale Street and Graceland, especially in Midtown Memphis.
I've lived over in that area all of my life, and that has always been a high crime area since I was a little girl.
On this fall evening, a troubling sensation comes over Melissa Isaac, who hasn't heard from her daughter, 28-year-old Bria Isaac, for more than 48 hours.
She always called me every morning, every evening, just called me all the time. And I knew something was wrong because I hadn't heard from her. When we was calling the phone was going to voicemail, and it's like unnormal for Bria.
Bria hadn't been into work either.
Bria's mom had spoken to the manager at the restaurant where she worked. He said Bria left for lunch on Thursday and never came back. So I then went over to her house.
It's around 8 p.m. when Melissa Isaac pulls up outside her daughter's apartment in Midtown. When Bria's mother arrives, she knocks on the door.
Bria!
And finds it unlocked.
There's a couch pushed up against the door, blocking it. But Bria's mother is determined. Vanessa was able to squeeze in through the door. Bria, are you here?
The kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom are all empty.
I'm pretty sure she sensed that something was off. Bria!
But little will prepare Bria's mom for what she'll find inside her daughter's bathroom.
Bria?
"28-year-old Bria Isaac wasn't the type to go looking for trouble.
She stayed to herself mostly. She didn't drink, she didn't do drugs or anything. She was just sweet, nice, and honest, and quiet. She was like a home person. Even though she was this quiet person, she also had that funny side. But it's around people she's comfortable around. That's just the spirit she brings. Like, when she walks into the room, it brightens up. You know, it just brightens up the day. That's the type of person she was.
When she wasn't spending time with her family, Bria was trying to get ahead.
Basically, she didn't do anything but work. And she was a very determined, hard worker. She would go in on her off days. She was very determined to try to have things in her life.
And she wasn't afraid of the responsibility, willing to take on new jobs that were needed, new tasks, and she had goals.
She was an independent woman. She didn't look for no handouts. Didn't look for anyone to do anything for her.
But for all her independence, Bria was generous, especially with those she loved.
She loved taking care of people. She loved helping people. She'll help anybody, give a shirt off her back or anything. Anything she can help you with, she would do it. She loves to give. She made sure that she gave whatever she could to those that she loved.
Between work and family, Bria had room in her life for one more person. Her longtime boyfriend, 29-year-old Joshua Fisher.
Bria met Joshua in high school. They were both young. They fell in love. He was the only guy that she had been with. And she developed true love for him. Everything was great. They were young and in love. It appeared this is the man that Bria wanted to spend the rest of her life with.
For 10 years, the couple dated on and off while Bria continued to work and save, eventually moving out of her mother's house.
She ended up getting her own place where she can, get out on her own.
She had it out there on Midtown. She was paying the rent, paying the light bill, and everything. Working 2 jobs. She was independent. She made her own money.
Despite her desire to take her relationship with Josh to the next level, Josh wasn't willing to commit.
Bria wanted to be loved. She wanted acceptance, and she wanted love. That is what she was looking for. I guess she just thought she could change him.
Bria's love for Joshua was put to the ultimate test when the couple broke up in 2011. Shortly thereafter, Joshua began a relationship with 29-year-old Keisha Norris.
That relationship evolved very quickly, and it really was a heartbreak for Bria, especially when Joshua and Keisha started having children.
But Bria couldn't shake her feelings for Joshua. And when Joshua wanted to reunite with Bria in the spring of 2013, she decided she was willing to give their relationship another shot.
Joshua and Keisha had children together, and Bria, being the loving, giving person that she is, she even took in their children as her own. She even helped with his kids. She'll go pick the kids up, take them shopping, buy them things on the holidays.
Being with Joshua again was everything Bria wanted. While Bria seemed to be on the path to happiness with Joshua, her family would soon be consumed by tragedy. On October 15th, 2016, Bria Isaac's mother has just walked in to find a horrific scene.
My baby was slumped over the bathtub. Melissa began to scream, crying out of heartbreak, crying out of the rage of discovering the death of her daughter.
The screams can be heard throughout the complex, and Memphis PD receives multiple 911 calls.
Memphis 911, do you need police, fire, or an ambulance? It may be an ambulance and police. A woman's on a balcony on Monroe in an apartment complex yelling, "My baby's dead, my baby's dead."
We need somebody over here now. Somebody else serve the day. Get a whole lot of people. It's something bad.
She was a hard hardworking young woman with her eyes on the future.
She was so independent. She was determined. She worked 2 jobs.
But there was only one man for her.
She just was so in love. It was her first relationship.
And unfortunately, it would also be her last.
Her mother found the body. After that, I don't remember anything. It was so heartbreaking.
But is her death a random act of senseless violence?
That has always been a high crime area.
The investigation will reveal a deadly deception.
No tengo hielo, o sea, el Bob no compró hielo, bro, el Bob nunca compra hielo.
Some people are just so greedy. She was blind. She couldn't see it.
October 15th, 2016. It's Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for the blues.
It has a very homegrown vibe to it. Isaac Hayes, B.B. King, all of the greats, including Elvis. This is a city which nurtures music.
However, there's more to this city of 600,000 than Beale Street in Graceland, especially in Midtown Memphis.
I've lived over in that area all of my life, and that has always been a high crime area since I was a little girl.
On this fall evening, a troubling sensation comes over Melissa Isaac, who hasn't heard from her daughter, 28-year-old Bria Isaac, for more than 48 hours.
She always called me every morning, every evening, just called me all the time. And I knew something was wrong because I hadn't heard from her. When we was calling the phone was going to voicemail, and it's like normal for Bria.
Bria hadn't been into work either.
Bria's mom had spoken to the manager at the restaurant where she worked. She said Bria left for lunch on Thursday and never came back.
So I then went over to her house.
It's around 8 p.m. when Melissa Isaac pulls up outside her daughter's apartment in Midtown. When Bria's mother arrives, she knocks on the door.
Bria!
And finds it unlocked.
There's a couch pushed up against the door, blocking it. But Bria's mother is determined. Melissa was able to squeeze in through the door. Bria, are you here?
The kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom are all empty.
I'm pretty sure she sensed that something was off. Bria!
But little will prepare Bria's mom for what she'll find inside her daughter's bathroom.
Saludos, oiga, ¿qué tal, Melvin? ¿Cómo estás? Saluditos, saluditos, brother. ¿Cómo van, chicos? Saludos a mi hermano Lupo, dice. Es que Lupo, crack, te anda con una rabia, hermano. Te está con una rabia, Paulini, que no sabes qué.
It's missing. I miss her. Probably miss her forever.
She was was a hard-working young woman with her eyes on the future.
She was so independent. She was determined. She worked 2 jobs.
But there was only one man for her.
She just was so in love with him.
It was her first relationship.
And unfortunately, it would also be her last.
Her mother found the body. After that, I don't remember anything. It was so heartbreaking.
But is her death a random act of senseless violence?
That has always been a high crime area.
The investigation will reveal a deadly deception.
Some people are just so greedy. She was blind. She couldn't see it.
October 15th, 2016. It's Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for the blues.
It has a very homegrown vibe to it. Isaac Hayes, B.B. King, all of the greats, including Elvis. This is a city which nurtures music.
However, there's more to this city of 600,000 than Beale Street and Graceland, especially in Midtown Memphis.
I've lived over in that area all of my life, and that has always been a high crime area since I was a little girl.
On this fall evening, a troubling sensation comes over Melissa Isaac, who hasn't heard from her daughter, 28-year-old Bria Isaac, for more than 48 hours.
She always called me every morning, every evening, just called me all the time. And I knew something was wrong because I hadn't heard from her. When we was calling the phone was going to voicemail, and it's like unnormal for Bria.
Bria hadn't been into work either.
Bria's mom had spoken to the manager at the restaurant where she worked. She said Bria left for lunch on Thursday and never came back.
So I then went over to her house.
It's around 8 p.m. when Melissa Isaac pulls up outside her daughter's apartment in Midtown. When Bria's mother arrives, she knocks on the door, finds it unlocked.
There's a couch pushed up against the door, blocking it, but Bria's mother is determined. Melissa was able to squeeze in through the door. Bria, are you here?
The kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom are all empty.
I'm pretty sure she sensed that something was off. Bria!
But little will prepare Bria's mom for what she'll find inside her daughter's bathroom.
Bria?
"28-year-old Bria Isaac wasn't the type to go looking for trouble.
She stayed to herself mostly. She didn't drink, she didn't do drugs or anything. She was just sweet, nice, and honest, and quiet. She was like a home person. Even though she was this quiet person, she also had a funny side, but it's around people she's comfortable around. It's just the spirit she brings. Like when she walks into the room, it brightens up. You know, it just brightens up the day. That's the type of person she was.
When she wasn't spending time with her family, Bria was trying to get ahead.
Basically, she didn't do anything but work. And she was a very determined hard worker. She would go in on her off days. She was very determined to try to have things in her life. And she wasn't afraid of the responsibility, willing to take on new jobs and when needed, new tasks, and she had goals.
She was an independent woman. She didn't look for no handouts. They looked for anyone to do anything for her.
But for all
It's missing. I miss her. Probably miss her forever.
She was a hard-working young woman with her eyes on the future.
She was so independent. She was determined.
she worked 2 jobs.
But there was only one man for her.
She just was so in love with him.
It was her first relationship.
And unfortunately, it would also be her last.
Her mother found the body.
After that, I don't remember anything. It was so heartbreaking.
But is her death a random act of senseless violence?
That has always been a high crime area.
The investigation will reveal a deadly deception.
Some people are just so greedy. She was blind. She couldn't see it.
October 15th, 2016. It's Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for the blues.
It has a very homegrown vibe to it. Isaac Hayes, B.B. King, all of the greats, including Elvis. This is a city which nurtures music.
However, there's more to this city of 600,000 than Beale Street in Graceland, especially in Midtown Memphis.
I've lived over in that area all of my life, and that has always been a high crime area since I was a little girl.
On this fall evening, a troubling sensation comes over Melissa Isaac, who hasn't heard from her daughter, 28-year-old Bria Isaac, for more than 48 hours.
She always called me every morning, every evening, just called me all the time. And I knew something was wrong because I hadn't heard from her.
When we was calling the phone was going to voicemail, and it's like unnormal for Bria.
Bria hadn't been into work either.
Bria's mom had spoken to the manager at the restaurant where she worked. She said Bria left for lunch on Thursday and never came back.
So I then went over to her house.
It's around 8 p.m. when Melissa Isaac pulls up outside her daughter's apartment in Midtown. When Bria's mother arrives, she knocks on the door.
Bria!
And finds it unlocked.
There's a couch pushed up against the door, blocking it, but Bria's mother is determined.
Melissa was able to squeeze in through the door.
Bria, are you here?
The kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom are all empty.
I'm pretty sure she sensed that something was off. Bria!
But little will prepare Bria's mom for what she'll find inside her daughter's bathroom.
Bria?
28-year-old 𝕊𝕤𝕦𝕖 wasn't the type to go looking for trouble.
She stayed to herself mostly. She didn't drink, she didn't do drugs, anything. She was just sweet, nice, and honest, and quiet.
She was like a home person. Even though she was this quiet person, she also had this funny side, but it's around people she's comfortable around. It's just the spirit she brings. Like when she walks into the room, it brightens up. You know, it just brightens up the day. It's the type of person she was.
When she wasn't spending time with her family, 𝕊𝕤 was trying to get ahead.
Basically, she didn't do anything but work. And she was a very determined, hard worker. She would go in on her off days. She was very determined to try to have things in her life.
And she wasn't afraid of the responsibility, willing to take on new jobs that were needed, new tasks, and she had goals.
She was an independent woman. She didn't look for no handouts. She looked for anyone to do anything for her.
But for all her independence, 𝕊𝕤 was generous, especially with those she loved.
It's missing. I miss her. Probably miss her forever.
Dice adiós, bro. Mi cel está descargado. Vale, Arielcito. Muchísimas gracias igual por pasarte, mi rey.
She was a hard-working young woman with her eyes on the future.
She was so independent.
She was determined.
She worked 2 jobs.
But there was only one man for her.
She just was so in love with him.
It was her first relationship.
And unfortunately, it would also be her last.
Her mother found the body.
After that, I don't remember anything.
It was so heartbreaking.
But is her death a random act of senseless violence?
That has always been a high crime area.
The investigation will reveal a deadly deception.
Some people are just so greedy.
She was blind. She couldn't see it.
October 15th, 2016. It's Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for the blues.
It has a very homegrown vibe to it. Isaac Hayes, B.B. King, all of the greats, including Elvis. This is a city which nurtures music.
However, there's more to this city of 600,000 than Beale Street and Graceland, especially in Midtown Memphis.
I've lived over in that area all of my life, and that has always been a high crime area since I was a little girl.
On this fall evening, a troubling sensation comes over Melissa Isaac, who hasn't heard from her daughter, 28-year-old 𝕊𝕤𝕦𝕖, for more than 48 hours.
She always called me every morning, every evening, just called me all the time. And I knew something was wrong because I hadn't heard from her.
When we was calling the phone was going to voicemail. And it's like unnormal for 𝕊𝕤𝕦.
𝕊𝕤𝕦 hadn't been into work either.
𝕊𝕤𝕦's mom had spoken to the manager at the restaurant where she worked. She said 𝕊𝕤𝕦 left for lunch on Thursday and never came back.
So I then went over to her house.
It's around 8 p.m.
when Melissa Isaac pulls up outside her daughter's apartment in Midtown. When Bria's mother arrives, she knocks on the door.
Bria!
And finds it unlocked.
There's a couch pushed up against the door, blocking it, but Bria's mother is determined. Melissa was able to squeeze in through the door. Bria, are you here?
The kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom are all empty.
I'm pretty sure she sensed that something was off. Bria!
But little will prepare Bria's mom for what she'll find inside her daughter's bathroom.
Bria?
28-year-old Bria Isaac wasn't the type to go looking for trouble.
She stayed to herself mostly. She didn't drink, she didn't do drugs or anything. She was just sweet, nice, and honest, and quiet.
She was like a home person. Even though she was this quiet person, she also had that funny side, but it's around people she's comfortable around. It's just the spirit she brings. Like when she walks into the room, it brightens up. You know, it just brightens up the day. That's the type of person she was.
When she wasn't spending time with her family, Bria was trying to get ahead.
Basically, she didn't do anything but work. And she was a very determined, hard worker. She would go in on her off days. She was very determined to try to have things in her life.
And she wasn't afraid of the responsibility, willing to take on new jobs that were needed, new tasks, and she had goals.
She was an independent woman. She didn't look for no handouts. Didn't look for anyone to do anything for her.
But for all her independence, Bria was generous, especially with those she loved.
She loved taking care of people. She loved helping people.
She'll help anybody, give a shirt off her back or anything. Anything she can help you with, she would do it. She loved. To give.
She made sure that she gave whatever she could to those that she loved.
Y mira ese, gente, a Neisser, banda, les juro que no me gusta, brother, cómo él cuando entra a salas, no sé si es porque él se sube a los techos, bro. O sea, mírenlo, ahí recién llega.
It's missing. I miss her. Probably miss